Do 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 do. Owner of a lonely heart, much better than owner of a broken heart. Okay.
That's how we're gonna
Just
start
going
every
through.
episode. Be singing
Yes.
yes versions of
Just
covers.
yes. Okay, no. So, Gavin, I had Gavin, leader of the chicken cult, our fearless leader of the chicken cult, Gavin. Um, I had heard because he's my sister's neighbor, that he had gotten into BMX about 8 or 9 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he started. This is the here's the trippy build up to this. Okay, he got really into like building bicycles and working on bicycles about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. He was constantly out in his garage working on bikes. And my sister was like, hey, you should listen to my little brother's podcast, Black Cat Report. And so that's how he started listening to Black Cat Report, is while he was out in his parents' garage working on bicycles. He was like
Mm-hmm.
12, 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that at the time, right? Our youngest listener, and legally not even supposed to be a listener of our channel, right?
Technically
Um,
not, but we do condone that. We do
A hundred
condone. We
percent.
do
A
want you to listen
hundred
to it.
percent. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Do your
Break
drugs,
them
kids.
rules.
And so anyways, so that's how he got into Black Cat Report. And he loves our show, vibes with us, da 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 da. I've
Mm-hmm.
met him a bunch of times. Super fucking awesome human being. I love if all of our listeners are like Gavin, then I'm the happiest content creator on the planet. Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can only speak for myself on that, but like Joey, I think you're gonna be right there with me. Like if you bet him, you'd be like, dude, if this is what our audience is like, fuck yes, dude. Like
Yeah.
he's cool as shit. Well,
Yeah.
so he got into it while he's just working on regular bicycles, and he got really into bicycles. Well, about 7 or 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, he started racing BMX. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's I think 15 years old. I think he just turned 16 at the time of releasing this episode. That the previous Wednesday he had turned 16. Um, anyways, so he just got into racing BMX. Within 8 months, within 8 fucking months, he placed second in the state in BMX,
Dang.
and then placed fourth nationally
Dang.
in 8 months.
Kid, a
He had
prodigy.
he had never done BMX in his life and was just like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pick this up. I'm gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
And in 8 months, placed fourth nationally.
Damn.
Jesus Christ! Like, I was talking to him the other day because he called and he was asking. He was like, "Hey, I'm starting a paintball team with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
I want the Black Cat Report to sponsor it." And I was like, "Fuck yes!" Bunch of kids running around the woods shooting each other. That is Black Cat Report written all over it.
Oh,
Um,
yep.
100%, we condone this. Obviously when it's
With
non-violent.
paintballs.
Well, that not
Paintballs.
non-deadly, non-deadly.
Yes.
It's still violent, but
Yes.
yeah, paintballs
Paintballs are fine.
specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Go for it. And anyways, but he's like, if you could name the team, and if you could design our jerseys, which I'm going fucking all out with designing the jerseys. I'm very
Gil
excited.
is.
It
Mm-hmm.
won't be released until this spring, but I've got some very eccentric ideas that are inspired by early CIA documents that I'm going to be using for
Mm-hmm.
these jerseys. But holy shit. Like I had just heard that he done really well in like county or state, and I was just like, "Whoa, he's kicking it." No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Like, homie, to be that young and to find not just your niche, but your pure like raw talent
Yeah.
that
That's
soon
tough.
in life. Dude,
Yeah.
like he's going semi-pro like this next year
Mm-hmm.
already.
Just like Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Just like Will Ferrell. Yeah. But no, he's going semi-pro like already because in the amateur level, he fucking ranked
He
fourth
rocked him.
in eight
Yeah.
months. Like, dude, what the fuck? Who does
Yeah.
that?
That's
Like,
crazy.
I am dead set convinced. Mark my fucking words right here. If homie sticks with this, he's gonna be in the Olympics. Like where
LA
one of our listeners,
2028, he will be there.
dude. Who does that? Who goes
Not
from
many
like
people.
0 to 60 that fucking fast? Like
Mm.
that is that I don't know. That's mind blowing. I just feel lucky to know him. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
for
And
sure.
to like
Mm-hmm.
to count him amongst our litter, right? Amongst the ranks of like Black Cat Report listeners
Mm-hmm.
and shit like that. It was like a weird moment of pride where it's just like, oh my god, like from working on bikes in your shop to fucking placing, like you were listening to Black Cat Report, like bro,
Yeah.
that was fueling you on the fucking track, bro. Like hell yeah. So
Hell yeah.
major shout out Gavin, leader of the chicken
Yep.
cult.
Good job, Gavin.
Yeah.
We're
Happy.
proud of you.
This is Joey's gonna work some magic here. We're gonna put it into the previous week's episode, so that we get there on time. Gavin, our fearless, featherless leader of the chicken cult, we just
Mm-hmm.
have to
Fearless.
say, we're compelled to
Mm-hmm.
say, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy fucking birthday.
Hell yeah. And we are
Hell yeah.
so stoked to sponsor your paintball team. And dude, if we can get in early, bro, hey, we want stock in your BMX career. So if we can sponsor
Mm-hmm.
your BMX career, we're all about it. All right. I'm just saying. We're gonna
If
be
we
greedy.
sponsor
We're
your
gonna be greedy.
BMX career and you win gold, we get a third of that. Me and Gil each get a third. So I believe you have to cut the gold medal into thirds and give 2/3 of it to me and Gil. No,
Yeah.
you know what? You can just give
Honest-
1/3 to me and Gil. You keep the 2/3. You did all the work. We just
You did most of the heavy lifting.
yeah. I would say you
No.
probably did about 99.9% of the work.
Honestly, we're cats over here. If you just gave us the ribbon that the medal came with, we'd be happy.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
I display part of that ribbon on my wall. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, but all jokes aside, man. Uh, as the leader of the official cult for Black Cat Report, the chicken cult, and as our youngest listener, we couldn't be more proud of you, dude. You're kicking ass. You're crushing it. You're finding your talents. You're finding your skills, and we're proud of you, man. Keep it up. Most importantly, keep being unique and keep being yourself.
Yep, exactly.
That's honestly it. Just it doesn't matter how weird you get. Just be good to other people and keep being weird. That's all.
Yep, do it.
Hell yeah. That's all. I had to get that out of the way, Joey. This is the good news. I haven't got to tell you. I haven't seen you in forever. It's been 30 minutes, Joey. I haven't seen you in decades and decades.
Way too long. Decades.
God, you've gotten Rogaine since the last time I saw you. You used to have a white mustache. Now you got a black mustache. Ay.
Yeah. I shaved it a little bit too, just to give it a little little edge.
When I called you, is that what you were doing? Were you trimming your fake mustache?
No, it came like this. I accidentally broke my fake mustache. But that would be a good story. I should tell that next time when I wear these out in real life at work.
Oh, Jesus Christ. For some reason, I have a feeling that that's not food safe. Hi, baby.
I mean, is anything?
That's true. Is food safe? And this
No,
is Dada Do.
Oh, Dada. Good to see you.
Little baby boy. Hi. Look at that little dip.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, sweetie pie.
Mm.
All right.
Dada Boo.
Love you, Papa. Okay, we got Salem for part 1 and Data for part 2. Our journey is complete.
Yep. All right. Episode 111.
Let's do this. Let's fuck this cow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day, where the air is so pure and the zephyrs so free, and the breeze is so balmy and light, that I would not exchange my home on the range for all the cities so bright. Home Home on the Range. I listen to that song. It's a cool song. Good evening, afternoon, good night, and good to see you again. And welcome to the Black Cat Report and episode 111. I am Joey, and with me is the world's next Giovanni Versace Gil.
Hello. You can expect my spring paintball line to be released in the spring paintball season. Time.
Gil's going to spring his clothes into spring.
But yes, I am very excited to, and this is we announced this for a moment for our patrons. I'll announce it here. We're going to be sponsoring a paintball team because our youngest listener and our bestest listener, who also happens to be the leader of the chicken cult, Gavin, reached out and specifically said, "Hey, I want Black Cat Report to sponsor my paintball team." And my answer was, am I allowed to use top secret CIA documents that I discovered that discuss the possibility of using camouflage as a way to actually create invisibility? And he said, yeah, sure, whatever. You can name the team. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. And so updates coming in about 5 months.
Yeah, it'll be there. And our young Giovanni Versace over here, Gil, will be world famous, I think, in
the paintball community.
Paintball community. The dress of the paintball community.
Yes.
The fashionable side of the paintball community.
I guarantee you whatever I design will get banned immediately. 100%.
Perfect. That's what we want. That's what we're hoping anything associated with Black Cat Report, except the actual episodes. We hope they stay online. Anything else to do with us, we wanted to get banned.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, we want to thank you for tuning in. And as we always say, we couldn't do this without you. Well, I honestly guess we could, but me and Gil would just literally be talking to ourselves on video. And we really don't want to do that. We really want you to listen.
Our friendship couldn't handle that. Yeah.
No. Oh.
We're very voyeuristic in our friendship. We need other people to watch and listen into our friendship, or else our friendship relationship won't work. Yeah.
True. Thank you for helping me and Gil stay friends for all these years. These 2 years.
We need you to cuck our humor for us.
Exactly. And to be fair, in real life, I don't think I'm that funny. And I need somebody to set me up, and Gil sets me up, and that's what I love. That's why we're friends.
Bingo.
No. Yep.
Thank you for being our cucks.
Thanks for being our cucks for comedy. Oh my God. That's our tour. Cucks for comedy.
Yes. Launching around the same time as our spring paintball uniform collection line.
Which
it's our Cucks for Comedy tour. Featuring probably, I don't know, like 2 cities or something.
Maybe, if that.
Sign us up. You sign us up if you want us.
Yeah,
we'll do a private show for you.
Open mic. You sign us up to your local comedic open mic.
There's no such thing as a show with poor attendance. There's just more intimate of an audience. That's what I always say.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what? If you're talking to chairs,
those chairs got good taste.
Yep. You can get a whole lot of Air 5s that day. Well.
It's going to be like a Jewish wedding over here. We're going to be throwing them up in the air. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. The invisible ghost. Hey, you know what? We're just talking to ghosts. We're just our comedy is for ghosts, right?
Our comedy is for ghosts, and our humor, well, the applause it gets, man.
Dude, those crickets love us.
Dude, seriously.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank all of our Patreon subscribers for listening, for watching, for doing all the good things you do, keeping our lights on, keeping our internet on, keeping us sane, keeping us here, keeping us in these chairs, I guess, technically, and helping us buy our chairs. Because
keeping us here, keeping us queer, and keeping everyone else in fear. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we hope that you are actually in fear listening to us right now.
Yes.
About the episode. I mean, not this one specifically, but maybe the next few. Who knows? We'll see. Well, let's get into part 2 of Billy Baldy Mitchell in the Feud of Mitchell's Bend. And I want to say the intro is actually a song called Home on the Range from the 1870s. And it was originally a poem written, but it eventually got turned into a song, and it was eventually covered by a bunch of people. But the one I listened to and I liked was Gene Autry's in 1947. It was a cool little old style song. And I was like, oh, this is so old. Old Gene Autry.
I wanna. Can I point something out here right at
You
the
can.
beginning? Now I know I've been hopping in here a bit. People should be used to that by now. It's episode 111. Um, there's something so funny to me about the fact that when we hear about these feuds and we hear about what essentially is a bunch of young kids, right? Generally, usually young men, but like
Mm-hmm.
14, 15, 16, 17, like
Yeah.
young kids, right?
Yep.
Getting in shootouts over feuds and disputes. And they all have these like names like Baldy and Wax McGee and like little whatever the fuck, little blue and shit.
Yeah.
And there's something about like gang violence that becomes so cute once like 120 years pass. Because
Yeah. Yep.
because this is the exact, like, if you go pick up a blotter at a gas station or something and you like read about like literally like turf war, right? And like gang wars that are happening, it is the exact same thing. 100%. The dude is like, I bought you this and I bought you that and da 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 da, and the dude's just over there sitting silent. Go watch court TV. Motherfucker, I did this for you and I did that for you and you're gonna blah 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 blah. This is the same shit.
Yep.
It might be when we look back at it historically or whatever, with the way that the records get written down, it's coming across as a different skin color, right? And it's coming across
Mm-hmm.
with different lingo. But honestly, 90% of their nicknames sound the fucking same.
Yep. They really do.
And the shit that gets involved and the stuff that they're saying, like what did he say in the last episode? He's like, you better take care. You better fucking take care. It's
you
like,
better take care. Take care.
you better watch out. You better step back. You better step back. Like it,
Mhm.
it is so quintessentially human. And all this shit. It's important to remember. You said it in the last episode. Hey, it was this many years ago. It's okay to to laugh at his death.
Yeah.
It's kind of
30.
true. In another
Yeah. Yeah.
130 years, we're gonna look at like gang violence in like Chicago and LA and be like, so old timey.
Yeah.
Lil Smalls went up and shot Ray in the face over a half of a city block. And it's like, I don't know. That whole time this has been going on, that's all I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. I'm like, this is literally changed the date. That's all you need to do.
It's
It's the
happening
same
yesterday.
shit.
It's happening
It's
yesterday.
the same shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what's funny too about it is like if me and Gil are alive, and they somehow 130 years from now, they somehow make us stay alive that long, and we can stay
Cigarettes
alive,
that
we'll
keep you alive
also-
longer.
Yeah, cigarettes to keep you alive longer. We will be covering what is happening today and laughing about it and joking with little Baldy over there, it's shooting somebody, like you said, down the street, and we will be joking about that person's death.
Shit.
Yep.
It is the same shit. But yeah,
And,
and I will pull up this clip of me saying it's the same shit, and I'll be like,
It'll
look
become
at
a
this
meme.
video here. It's the same shit, and it's like it's
Yep.
the same shit. It's the same shit. It's the same shit. And you'll be like, oh, he's stuck again. Like,
Yeah, he's stuck again. Dad, come on. Whatever your children, your kitty children are just like
Yeah.
poking you.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we last left off, the feud between the Mitchells and the Truitts rose to a fever pitch, and Billy Baldy Mitchell in Mint Grave shot and killed Jam Truitt's two sons, Isaac and Sam Truitt, and wounded his other son, James Truitt. James Truitt escaped and told the sheriffs what happened. Baldy's father, Nelson, and two others were arrested, W.J. Owens and D.A. Shaw. The other two were sentenced to life in prison, but Nelson was sentenced to death by hanging, and in October 1875, he was hung until he died, right after decrying to James Truitt of his innocence and how he had helped him.
Wait, Joey, check the chat real quick.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. It was
Right
very
here.
important, audience.
Yeah,
You'll
right here.
you'll find out years from now.
Mm-hmm. Right
About
there.
120 years from now. Okay. I got you.
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay.
Back.
Super top secret. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I got worried.
While the search was on for Nelson. Oh, sorry. That was stupid. Oh, yeah, that's true. While the search was on for Nelson and they raided Nelson's house, the search was also on for Billy Baldy Mitchell, who had actually been the one to shoot one of the Truett sons. He fled fast as can be away from the Mambrino Road, which is where all this happened, and towards the west. I don't know why I pointed that way. If you're watching the video, you can see me point to the random way. I was just hopefully guessing that's west. Actually, yes, that is west. That is going towards
Hell
west.
yeah.
Because that is towards West Asheville. That's how I orient myself. Well, a man named Holder hid him for a few weeks until it was safe for him to move again. Both Mitt Graves, who was the other shooter, and Baldy both disappeared from north central Texas like a piece of dust in the wind.
Hmm.
Well, our story of Mitt Graves ends with him being in California, and he literally just lived out the rest of his life in peace and was not bothered, which is just the weirdest thing. They didn't even chase this guy. They knew and what's funny, they knew where he was, and they just let him go.
I mean, yeah, but that was also at a time where, like, well, especially fresh off the heels of the Civil War, states' rights and boundaries were a big fucking deal. Like, it was you had to go out of your way and hire bounty hunters to operate in, if it was okay, a gray area. Most of the time, totally not even a gray area, an illegal area of the law, in order to
Yeah.
go across like state or even sometimes county lines to hunt people. So it's like you
Yeah.
could know somebody's there, you couldn't do shit about it.
Just like in the Benders series, you remember? Because they just literally went like a couple towns over just to get
Yeah.
into the next state, and they just hid. And they had to have bounty hunters and sheriffs from that town hired to go get them, and they couldn't even cross a stream because they were going into Native American territory, which they were like, no, you can't come over here. Like you have to send somebody to talk to the chiefs first, then get permission to go in, and then get them.
It's still like that on Reses. It's
for sure.
still it's still 100% like that because technically they're their own nation.
It's their land. Yeah.
But can I triple up on this in an old timey kind of way that I think is fun?
I love it if you did.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is one of my bedtime stories. So folks that know me well, know that my real father, my biological, let me put it that way, not my real father, my biological father, Gilbert Bentley Sr., born in 1933, backwoods ass Kentucky coal miner during his childhood, right? Well, 1930s, 40s, 50s in backwoods ass Kentucky, you know what was still going on out there then? Moonshine was still live and well up in the mountains of Kentucky. And my dad, so this is kind of my earliest knowledge about like the power of like county lines and state lines, came from when my dad was growing up. He grew up poor as fucking shit. Like it was like literally had to go out hunting for dinner. If you didn't kill anything, y'all weren't eating. Like that was, like that was a very poor life, and like on top of that, working in coal mines, it was rough as fuck back in the day, right? Well, part of my earliest bedtime stories is he would tell me about when him and his brother, his older brother, would run moonshine in the mountains from the police, which I can't imagine affected me at any point in my development. But he would tell me, he's like, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how it started. But
it was, yeah.
NASCAR had a legit start. It got boring as fuck later, like most things that get institutionalized. But no, there was a thing back in the day. So they'd be between counties, specifically like if you're in or near Pikesville, Kentucky, a Bentley. That's where like all the fucking Bentleys come from in this country is Pikesville, Kentucky. It's where they all settled in at,
Yeah.
right?
Not the
And
cars, the people.
yeah. Well, they would take like Model Ts and shit and like old cars and they were drug running cars. That's straight up what they were. They were running moonshine. And what they would do is they would have these little turnoffs. So the police would be coming after them. They would spot them out on these country roads. They would
Yeah.
fucking go. And these are old ass dirt roads and shit. See them. And my dad and my uncle would pull off onto the side and just take a fucking bottle of moonshine and pour it straight into the gas tank while the car's running
Hmm.
and fucking hit the gas. Basically, put that bitch into overdrive and melt the fucking engine halfway down the road, but push the
Damn.
car fast enough that they were able to get over the county line and like straight up get across the county line on the other side and pull off with their fucking engine smoking and just be flicking off the cops who would have to stop and would just be looking at
Yeah, they
because the
couldn't
cops
get 'em.
didn't 1940s and 50s backwoods Kentucky they didn't have radios. They couldn't call it into the next line, and the laws were super fucking strict, especially in the South, about crossing lines and chasing anybody. So, like,
Damn.
if you were getting away with anything that was less than a straight up murder, right, then it was just like, you just got to get across the county line, and you're
Yeah.
good. So, like, that was my bedtime story.
Damn.
That and witchcraft.
Well, true. Good mix.
Yeah.
And speaking
Yeah.
of Model Ts, they will come in right at the end of the story, which is fucking
Yes.
crazy.
Did they pour moonshine in and just fuck the engine up?
I'll let you know later.
Okay.
Yeah. Just gotta wait. Well, as I said, our story of Mick Graves, he just ended up in California. No one cared. As you said, state lines mean a huge, big different things, even town lines back
Yes.
then. So they kind of just let him go and were like, all right, well, nah,
Well,
whatever.
yeah.
Not our problem anymore. But as for Baldy Mitchell, that is not where his story ends. As
Oh.
soon as he could, he headed out. As soon as he could, he headed out to a dismal place about 100 miles west of San Antonio. Well, from 1875, which was the year of his father's hanging, on until March 21st, 1884, little is known about Bill Mitchell's whereabouts or his doings because he was pretty much what, in his own words, he did say he was hunting for food as well as just hunting to sell the hides and meats to passerbys in basically completely desolate areas. That was pretty much what he said he was doing later on. So it's kind of like that's the only thing he gave. He was just like, I was out in the wilderness doing normal stuff, like stuff just basically getting by, which is what he was taught to do. Well, on April 28th, 1884, he married a woman named Mary Holiday, which is crazy. That is like, he was like, cool, whatever, I'm just going to get married. Mary Holiday just divorced her husband not more than 1.5 months before she married Baldy.
Things moved quick back then.
She was already looking for somebody when she divorced. A lot of people in the
Yeah.
town were like, we think that they were shacking up before they got married. Obviously, before they got married. It was looked on as the big scuttlebutt of the town.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was very scuttly. That butt was scuttling. Well, they moved to a home owned by her sister in New Mexico to work the land and basically have a family because, he was like, I'm just going to settle down, live the good life. I've been on the run for a while and I think I can live just a good life. So it seems Baldy was about to settle down because he was doing good things, right? A man named Harold Dotson had a few horses stolen from him by bandits, and Baldy actually went and reclaimed the horses and then returned them to Harold. So he turned things around. Well, that is until he heard about his father's death. And Baldy was not one to let things rest. Apparently, he was well known to hold a grudge.
In all fairness, most folks aren't willing to let somebody their father being murdered just kind of
Yep. Oh well.
that would
was served.
that would
he
start a
wasn't
blo-
gonna say that.
that would start a blood feud with me. I don't know about you, but if somebody killed my dad and got away with it, I'd be a little bit pissed.
Agreed. I think I would go pretty far to make some
Yeah.
things happen to settle some scores.
Yeah.
And just like we talked about in the last episode, remember, they wanted to stop this. The court
Yeah.
was trying to stop the score settling. And I don't think that's
did
kind
for
of how
that
that
county.
works.
It did
At
for
least
that
in
county.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Oh, actually, it did for that county for that second. Well,
Yeah.
he obviously blamed the Truitts for his father's hanging, and he was ready for revenge. He was ripe for it. He could feel it in his bones.
Yeah.
It's actually not really known how he heard of his father's deaths or who told him, because as we know, he couldn't read. He couldn't read it, so he couldn't read the papers. And
Who
he
the hell
wouldn't
told
know.
him? There's just
Yeah,
like movies that are being announced on like the fucking kiosk and shit around him, and there's like
Yeah.
reenactments happening in the street, and he's just like, Lou, 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 I got some
Yeah.
apples, Lou, Lou, Lou. He just oblivious as fuck to it.
To everything. He doesn't even know. I just imagine that he was kind of in town. He was at a saloon or a stable or something along the lines of that, and he just like was sitting there having a drink, just drinking, and then somebody was like, "Oh, did you see the Mitchell got hung like 6 months ago? It finally reached our papers."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, wait, what was the
Mitchell.
first name of Mitchell?" Oh,
Yeah.
it's Nelson Mitchell. What was the first name of the Mitchell? It was
Nelson
Nelson
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
What was the middle name of the Mitchell? Rutherford. What was his mother's maiden name of the Mitchell?
Yeah.
Also Rutherford. What was his mother's aunt's cousin's maiden name of the cousin of the Mitchell? Anne? How do you know so much about my family? Well, because he died. Oh my God!
He was killed.
Southern
He was-
royalty.
What?
Yeah.
He was what?
He was billed. What did they bill him for? No, killed. Why do they
That's
call
my
you
name.
Baldy? They should call you Deffy. What? What?
Bill. Bill, that's my name. That's my name.
He can hear totally fine. It's just the guy has the attention span of a gnat. What?
Who? Well, describing that he was illiterate, he was very illiterate, but he was vengeful. So now it's time for Baldy to start exacting his vengeance. As much as Baldy was hiding in the wilderness and barely surviving off of bears earlier and the wayward rabbit or squirrel, James Truitt's life was thriving at that time, right? So his natural enemy right at the moment, because when they were young, they couldn't have been more different. And now they still couldn't have been more different because he was
And
sitting
they
in the
still can't
wilderness.
be more different.
Yeah, he's sitting in the wilderness, barely surviving. James like, I'm going to live a fucking good life.
Yeah.
And James became a full-time preacher, which Nelson had helped him do because he bought him some clothes. He bought him that new Bible, like real nice Bible to help him out. And so James became a preacher. He started building his family. He married a woman named Julia Pfeiffer, who was called a very clever and talented woman. And she was like well written. She could do really well. And she eventually became an editor of a paper.
Okay.
And she was doing awesome. And he was like,
Damn.
got
Okay.
me a good one. Well,
Yeah, dude.
they had a boy and 2 girls, right? So they had a good family growing. And in 1884, he left the active ministry. It's not because he lost faith in God, but because he couldn't afford to have a family on a preacher's salary anymore because it was growing so big. He
Damn.
couldn't pay the bills.
Wow. That was like at a time when preachers weren't making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird because like today, that's like a reason to start a church. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like, bro, new Lexus, new Mercedes every year, son. Like, damn. But like back then, it's like I gotta leave the cloth. I mean, I've got this giant family over here. How can I afford to have a family with a preacher's salary? Now it's just, hoo-hoo.
How can I afford not to have
how
a family with
how the
this preacher's
tithings
salary?
how the tithings have turned.
Right, literally, yeah. Well, in 1885, he became James Truitt. In 1885, he became the owner, James Truitt, and publisher of the Timpson Times, as he had moved there with his family, which this was in East Texas, Timpson, Texas.
Okay.
All seemed well and life was thriving. Meanwhile, it was at this time news was coming to the ears of Baldy that his nemesis James Truitt was thriving in Timpson, Texas.
Mm.
So Baldy was like, it's time. He packed up
Yeah.
his bags, his gun, some coffee, which, to be fair, would be the first thing that I would bring, and some bread.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was about 400 something miles
But he
from where
forgot
he
his
was.
mule.
He forgot his mule.
I
Which
feel
saved
like
him.
for some reason I'm going faster than usual. Something's off.
But why am I carrying all these bags? Something should be carrying this for me.
I don't know. I'll figure it out on the way.
Yeah. Well, he had a long time to go because it was 400 miles to where he was in Brackenville to get to Timpson, Texas.
That's like
So-
9 years in that time period.
Yeah. And it's a long time. But
That's a long
honestly,
fucking time.
it didn't bother him. He was like, cool, I got a long way to go, but I'm still going to do it anyways because it's a devil's errand, right?
That's true.
He made one stop along the way, and it was at his brother Dan's house because he was like, I need to gear back up, get some good rest in a bed, and Baldy's brother Dan was super excited to see his brother because he hadn't seen him in a long while
Aw.
because obviously he was hiding out. He was like, it's good to see you alive, good to see you, whole.
Yeah.
They talked about what happened to their dad. Obviously they were just, shooting the shit a little bit too, talking about their lives, his wife, because literally it's not really said, but Baldy kind of just left. And he didn't really
Yeah.
say anything to his wife. So he's kind
Ooh.
of like, yeah, he just kind of left.
Awkward. Yeah.
It's kind of funny when he comes back later. Well, his brother Dan was like, "So what you doing? Like, where you going? What's happening? What are you on the road to do?"
Yeah.
Baldy replied, "I'm gonna kill Jim Truitt." Very coldly and boldly. He's like, "I am just gonna go kill him, James Truitt.
I
I'll
mean-
fucking kill him."
If he's talking to his brother about the person that killed his fucking dad,
Mm-hmm.
I respect that. He sticks to his
Yeah,
guns.
sure.
He's just
And-
like, somebody kills your fucking dad or your mom. It's just like, look, who's like, I know the law's gonna blame you, but we ain't. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, Go
what
for
will
it.
get revealed later, or at least what Dan said, is that he was kind of like, "Hey, man, don't do that." I'm pretty sure he was saying, like, "Dude, don't do that." Wink, wink. I really don't think you should go kill the killer of our father. Wink,
As he's
wink.
like polishing the gun
Yeah,
and like
polishing a gun, yeah.
removing his fingerprints and setting it down, just picks up a bazooka off of his back. I really don't think it's a good idea to go anywhere near 3rd Street around 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when there is a Boston sandwich special. Are you right-handed? You're right-handed. Okay. It's like picks up another gun, sets it on the table, and he's like,
It's the right-handed gun.
like I said, Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m., especially if you're at the 5 and Dime store across the street, or if it pulls out a fucking sniper rifle, starts just like squeak, 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 squeaking it to fucking together. He's like, if you're staying up at the 15 cents whore motel upstairs, and you're specifically talking to Madame Bluth, all right, she will definitely make sure that you are not in the far right corner room that is soundproof. Okay, I think this is a terrible idea. Now you said you like hollow points, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you do. Okay, yeah. Now you especially don't want to be up there just like pulling just like an
pulling
entire
guns and
assassin's
guns.
arsenal,
Yeah.
and just like 16 passports spread across the table.
Yeah. Where did you get all this stuff? It's not like I've been planning this myself. Yeah.
brother, come on, come on.
Yeah. Well, in late July of 1886, which was about 11 years after his father was hanged, Baldy walked into Timpson. People noticed Baldy because he had a small little coffee pot that wasn't normal looking. This is the funniest thing, and it's like, to be fair, if it was, this
No.
would be how, if I did something like this would be how I got caught.
Yeah.
They'd be like, that
Yeah.
guy's in there with an espresso machine. What the fuck? Nobody brings an espresso machine like that. Just like this obviously crazy thing bringing it. It's like, what is he
He
doing?
is an aqua blue mocha pot. Why is he's just carrying that around everywhere?
Yeah. It was also weird too because in the story they talked about that the guy who gave the detail about him said that he noticed that he had a gun in his saddle. And to me, I was like, man, didn't a lot of people have guns in the saddle in like the 1880s? And then they explained it later, saying like at this time, it wasn't normal if you were from that town to carry guns around in your saddles. So it made it
makes
show
sense.
that he was kind of an outsider. And so they also noticed that as like, okay, this guy's an outsider, so I'm going to keep memory of it. But then I also said, this is Texas.
Yeah.
Shouldn't everybody have had guns at this time? It was just kind of
Oh
like
my
a
God.
battle back and forth of being like, it's Texas. They should have guns at this time. But still at this time, they're starting to clean up. It's the 1880s. They're starting to clean up the streets. They're starting to like get law and order. These towns are getting bigger because people
Yeah.
they're either getting bigger or they're just getting destroyed. And
Yeah.
everyone's leaving. So it's like, I think that it started being like, okay, sheriffs are understanding like, if everybody's armed in this town, there's probably going to be something happening because a lot of people aren't educated in this town. So and are going to have feuds just like we saw in Northeast Texas. So
Well-
it's like just like we saw with the Mitchells and the Truitts,
Yeah. I think
Hatfields
like
and McCoys.
maybe it was like the rifle sticking out. I mean, I'm sure they still carried their like side piece. They still carried like handguns and shit because
Probably.
especially if you're fucking ranching in like the Southwest, like snakes are
Yeah,
a
you gotta
real
shoot
fucking
rattlesnakes.
issue, know? Like and that would make sense, but like I don't know. I just can't picture a time when like gun laws or not even gun laws, but like the gun faux pas of Texas were like more stringent than they are
Than they are now. Yeah,
today.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like make Texas great again, and you actually go back in time, and they have like intense background checks on gun ownership. And it's like, wow, I did not see that coming.
I did not see that in the past.
Yeah.
That's awkward. Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, and what's funny is like, we talk about the gun, and he also had like a really noticeable white cowboy hat that he kept around too.
That'll do it. Yeah.
That'll do it. And it's like, kind of when they talk in American Gangster, when Frank wears the big fur coat that his wife gets him, and it makes him noticeable. So then the CIA and the drug enforcement DEA starts looking into him because of that one little slip up. And it's like, damn. It's kind of what happens. He wasn't keeping his head down. And I don't know if Baldy really
It's fucked because
cared.
he's from that town. Like he had
Well,
to
he's
have
not-
known better.
He's not from that town. It's a different
Okay.
town. It's
Okay.
close. It's not far. It's not far from the town.
Well,
He actually passed through the town that the
like
original
born in and
Truett
shit?
shooting happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, he passed through the town, but he kept the back roads that he knew, so nobody really saw him to get
That's
there.
That's what I'm saying though. Like he's from the area. Like you were saying though.
Yep.
Like he had to have known better, because he was able to keep the back roads.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
Yep.
homie knows better. Homie, he's been one of those people seeing somebody pull up in town with a gun in a spot, because this is like only a handful of years later. You know what
Yep,
I'm saying?
it's
Like
not that, it's only 11. Yep.
yeah,
12.
culturally, shit ain't changed that fast. No. And like
people remember it.
yeah, and so like he knew the area well enough to know how, what an outsider looks like. And I think you're right. I think he just didn't give a fuck. Like I know how to fit in my hometown. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and it's like I ain't lived there in a long time, but I'm pretty sure I can fit in fine.
Yeah, true. Well, as Baldy rode into the town, he asked a boy that was standing alongside the road if he knew where the Reverend James Truett lived. The boy pointed to the house down the road. Baldy then offered 15 cents to him to actually take him to the house, right? And the boy
Okay.
agreed. He's like, oh, maybe this guy just wants to go talk to the preacher of the town, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the kid honestly was
Only
probably
nice
like,
people give money.
yeah, think about all the candy I could buy with this 15 cents. I can get me a soda
Dear
pop.
God, I can get my mom away from Madame Bluth.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Damn, old Madam Bluth.
Mm.
Oh. Mm.
She's strict
Was
but fair.
Baldy? Hey, gotta be. You gotta be.
Gotta be.
Gotta be. Well, as Baldy was walking down the road to the house, James Truitt was playing fiddle outside the house on the porch. And yeah, it's so obviously this time period.
I know they weren't invented yet, but I hope he pulls a Tommy gun out of the violin case.
Oh my God, that would be even better.
Like, yeah.
Say hello to my little friend. Oh, there's no bullets in this.
Damn it.
Yeah. Well, as he was playing on the porch, a string broke. So it was before Baldy got to the house. So he's just sitting there like, damn it, my string broke. James took the fiddle inside and laid it on the bed and said, well, that ends it. And to be
Damn.
fair, no sentence could be more true.
Cinematic as fuck. Yeah.
Right? Now, it was about a few minutes later that James Truitt was urged by James Truitt was urged by a lot of his friends to carry a pistol to protect himself because most people knew that Baldy Mitchell was on the lam and was still pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember how you
James-
killed someone's dad?
Yeah.
You might want to hold a gun, bro.
Yeah. James Truitt would tell them, carrying a pistol for Bill Mitchell would be a waste of time. If he ever shoots me, it will be from the back.
Ooh, damn.
Mhm. He's calling him
Damn.
a coward, too. That's a coward move.
Damn.
Dropping a bomb.
Damn. That is
As a preacher.
damn. Like
Yeah.
he called his future assassin a bitch. Like
Yep.
he was just damn, okay?
Well, James Truitt was being a bit too cheeky for his own good.
Sounds like
James
it.
Truitt that night was dictating to his wife things to write because they like to do that before bed, because she was an editor. He was also,
Mhm.
he had a good job he owned a paper, Timpson paper. Baldy strode into the home, just kicked in the door, walked
Damn.
straight in, pull a bullet, walk straight in, and put a bullet straight into the head of James, instantly
Damn.
killing him.
Damn.
His wife, Julia's screams brought the neighbors over straight away, right? So they came,
Yeah.
as soon as they heard this, they're like, fuck. And so they ran over to the house, and they all saw Baldy hustling down the road back to his horse, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Sauntering, if you will.
yeah.
It's like-
Yeah, he wasn't
yeah.
he wasn't in a super big hurry.
He wasn't
but
booking
was
it.
booking it a little
Yeah.
bit back to his horse to get away.
But his coffee was almost done, so he had
yeah,
to get
exactly. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
Baldy got away fast enough, right? And the neighbors who tailed him eventually lost his trail cold because he knew all the back roads. Who knew how to get away? He was a survivalist, basically. And
Yeah.
it took about 48 hours before the sheriff from another town could get there, get back to his town, get back to that town, and then find out what happened, and then get on the trail of Baldy, which they
Shit.
eventually lost already. They didn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't get to him. So, and the townspeople that were trailing him lost the trail. He lost all of his tails. But the funny thing is that everyone made note of Baldy as he walked into town because of his coffee pot, like I said earlier. They said they noticed him drinking a few cups a day. So, like, this guy was a coffee addict.
Hell yeah. We
was like, that's
respect
me,
that here
honestly.
on Black Cat Report.
Yep. We
Here on Black
definitely-
Coffee Report, we respect that.
Yeah, we do respect it. Which I want to say again, this is pretty much how I would be caught too. They would just find ground espresso all the way trailed to where I was.
That's about right. That's about right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Baldy made his way out and back to his home in New Mexico with his wife. During his hiding, a police officer by the name of A.J. Spradley took Baldy's brother, Dan, whom he had visited before killing James Truitt, under arrest, right?
Mhm.
And this is a little funny play by AJ Spradley because he wanted to get some information. He thought Dan had information of where Baldy was. He thought he knew everything was going on, and he was like, I'm going to get you to tell me. To be fair, Dan had done nothing wrong.
Okay.
We're just going to say that. And just like so happens a lot nowadays, he had done nothing wrong, and he was falsely under arrest, right? So,
yeah. That
Spradley
didn't stop
made
the
this
hanging, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Spradley made this plan. As he was transferring Dan on a train to the next town to the jail, Spradley had sent ahead to an associate of his to get together a mob of people to protest and gather around the train as it arrived into the town. They started chanting, "Kill Dan, kill the killer, kill James Truitt's killer," and similar things like that.
Okay.
Well, this scared Dan because he's like, damn, is this mob going to kill me?
Mm-hmm.
Is this mob going to come in and kill me? And, obviously, if you're hearing that, you're kind of like, oh, God, like, that happens, right? They took people out of jails and would murder them.
Yeah.
I think on a last episode, that happened. On one of the past episodes, that happened.
That was Frank Oldfield. Like, literally, that was why he was there.
Yeah, that was why he was guarding it.
Protecting his best friend from being killed by a mob so that his best friend could be killed by the state.
Yeah. Yeah, he could get the justice he was supposed to get.
Yeah.
Well, after that happened, they made it through the crowd. The next day, they had the crowd come to the jail and start protesting outside the jail on his first day in the jail. And so, obviously, Dan's like, okay, this is not going to go well if I'm going to be in this jail for a longer period. I know I did nothing wrong, to be fair. He's like, I know I didn't do anything wrong, but these people, they don't give a fuck. They don't care that I wasn't part of this. They're just going to kill me.
Yeah. Mob justice.
Yeah. Well, Spradley was a little smart on this. Like, honestly, it's a good move. Illegal, completely illegal to take this guy under arrest who had nothing to do with it, but when has that ever stopped anybody? So, basically, he said that, basically Dan told Spradley that Baldy was the killer of James Truitt, and it was because of his father, Nelson Mitchell, told Baldy to get revenge on the Truitts for his hanging. Well, whether that was true or not, I don't really think it was, but never asked Baldy about his father. He didn't even know, to be fair, until later. So how would he know to go kill them? I think his dad never told him any of this, so he's just making it up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry, I just lost my place as I was doing that.
You good?
Well, I think Baldy felt duty bound by his loyalty to his family, and I think that's why he eventually killed him. And that was really the biggest reason why he did that. There's
That's
really no
understandable.
other reason. Yeah, just revenge. Well,
I respect
Spradley's.
that. I 100% respect that, honestly. Like, I'm not going to even fucking lie about that shit. Somebody killed my mom.
Funny.
Somebody killed my dad. It's just like, and they just fucking straight up got away with it.
Yep.
I'd be pretty like anybody in my family. You know what I'm saying? Anybody in my family, anybody of my close friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, son, it's vengeance. Like, I will wait 10 years to get that shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I will wait until motherfuckers forget. Like, I will get.
Yeah.
No. And that's how it should be.
Yeah. And what's funny, later on, the town also understood. But we'll get into that later. Well, as Spradley was searching, his leads eventually ran cold for a little bit because Baldy was traveling to New Mexico with his sister-in-law, Ari, and Baldy's wife. For his wife and her family, he actually had been going by a different name because he obviously wants to not be known as, a Mitchell because they were searching for this guy. He became known as John Davis, and that's how they knew him. But weirdly enough, after he came back to New Mexico, he introduced himself not as John Davis, who they all knew him as. He introduced himself as Henry Russell.
All right.
And it's like his wife is standing there, who they had known. His sister-in-law is standing there. His sister-in-law's husband are all standing there looking at him like, so that just going to be your name now? They knew he had a problematic past. Really. They already knew that. And they, they didn't ask him about it. I mean, it's kind of frontier times. They just didn't ask about it. They kind of let it go. He was good-natured enough. He was a good man for them. Well, eventually, he just started going by Baldy Russell. And they just knew him as Baldy Russell. It was like he became his like alias name. Well, because he lost all his hair. That's kind of how they started calling him Baldy, which is funny, obviously.
Fair.
And I guess they just went with it. His wife even changed her name to Mary Russell.
Damn.
So from Mary Davis to Mary Russell. So they like just went with it.
Damn. I respect that.
Whatever. Yeah. And it was also really well known too that they really, this is kind of funny, they really loved each other, because we'll find out later in the stories, like even on the run and like with no homes, they stayed together. They slept under canvas carts together. They slept under out in the fields. It was like real cute, honestly.
Teamwork.
Out of all this like craziness happening in the story, there is a beautiful love story between them two. And I think that, once she was getting divorced, they found that love. Like they met each other and found that love, and he was on the run. So it was kind of like they both were going through a lot of trauma at that point and fell in love. Well, they moved around a bunch and ended up parking on a piece of land that was actually government owned. So it's kind of funny. If it was non-surveyed land, it was automatically government owned, which is kind of a thing I didn't really know about, but automatically government owned. And technically, you couldn't just take government land, non-surveyed land. You couldn't just go do that. But by 1895, he had built a full ranch with 2 watering holes dug by himself on that government land. Now, legally, like as I said, you couldn't live on or improve government land or non-surveyed land. But because you can sell things made by your own 2 hands, he literally sold the property, and no one questioned him on it.
Damn.
It was like a genius move. It's like, what's the idea if like you buy a mortgage for a piece of land and then you build a house on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You default on the house, they can't take the house from you because it's on your land.
Really?
Yeah. It's very weird laws, because like what are they going to do? Come and take your house off your land? So
that makes sense.
They can't take it from you. I mean, there's probably a lot of lawsuits that can happen, but literally, I don't think that they can come and take your house.
Hell yeah.
It's your land.
And that's a hot tip from the Black Cat Report.
Yep.
That's a hot mortgage tip from the Black Cat Report. Don't get behind on your property payments. Get behind on your house payments. Pay off your property first.
Yep.
Keep your house for
if
yourself.
I am wrong on that, and real estate lawyers know better than me, please don't tell us and let other people do this for us. Let us find out that way. Hopefully not listeners to the podcast.
Yeah, no. I don't know who else would find that. Anyways.
Transcripts. Eventually,
yes.
Baldy and his family
we
went
got to burn
on,
those.
camping. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, eventually, Baldy and his family went on camping, and that's why I was saying they're just camping out under the stars. They're getting into a new ranch, and they settled down again, and they got into another feud with a neighbor.
God damn it!
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of didn't amount to too much. It just kind of, as he built his ranch, like I didn't write it in the script because it's kind of like a small part, but I do want to like joke about it because like he's just freaking. It runs in his family. So
yeah,
a guy got pissed because his neighbor was pissed because his cows kept going on to Baldy's land, and Baldy was getting pissed that the cows were going onto his land. So eventually, like, he hid one of the cows, like the small baby cows, the calves, and the other neighbors got pissed and were like, he's over there, we got to go search his house and find the meat, basically saying he killed it and took the meat, which they went and looked in his house. They like broke into his house, and went to
Damn.
go look for the meat, and they didn't find it. And then they like went up like a mile from the house, and then we're like, oh, there's the calf. And like Baldy's like just literally was sitting there behind it, like, yep. He's just fucking with him. He was fucking with him because he pushed the cab out, knowing he actually was pretty sure that they were gonna try to search his house, and he was just being a dick about it. He's like, "Fuck you! I know you guys are assholes. I'm an asshole. This is what I do."
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And fucking with him, and it was just he just wanted to mess with people. And then there's a whole part about the neighbor came up to his house, like Baldy was sitting there with a gun, and he basically was like pointing the gun down in front of him, and like he motioned his gun to be like, come on, get off my property. And the guy, his neighbor, came up on a horse like super full speed. Baldy didn't move and just stopped like right in front of him and was like, the neighbor was like, put your gun down. So Baldy was like, all right. So he like pointed his gun down to the ground, and they started yelling at each other. And then eventually Baldy was like, all right, like this is not gonna solve anything. And so he's like, just go. Let's never talk again. And so that's pretty much how it left. Like nobody killed each other.
Okay.
Which is a good feud. Like just okay.
Yeah,
let's just
it's progress.
We have to live here together. Let's just live here together.
Yeah.
Look,
I've been through this before. It doesn't end well. My kids shouldn't hunt down your kids. It's all right. Like,
yeah, let's just let it go. And they did.
Yeah.
Well,
good.
It got to eventually 2 of Baldy's and Mary's daughters grew up and met suitors, right? Well, because they were getting older. Well, Baldy was not very accepting of anyone calling for his daughters. So both daughters, to actually get married, had to go and elope without anybody.
Damn.
Very, very crazy. And Baldy actually hated Maud's, one of his daughters, Maud's husband, eventually husband. He hated this guy.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. Well, they actually went and got married at the courthouse. And to get married at the courthouse, to be legal, you have to use your real name. And as we know, his daughters were going by Russell. Changed from Davis for some other reason because it was really stupid. And so while they're at the courthouse, his daughter was asked the real name during the ceremony. And she said firmly, Maud Mitchell. And they were still hunting anybody with the last name Mitchell to find where they were. This would end up being one of the things that helped bring the lawman to the doorstep of Baldy. Not there yet. No. With both of his girls gone and moved and married away, because they all moved, they got married and they couldn't be near him because he hated the husbands. He was like, get the fuck out of here. And they wanted to go build a life of their own. Baldy got really bored. He's like, my kids are gone. What else do I got to do?
Who else do I have to hate on?
Yeah, I got to hate on somebody. Well, he was just genuinely lonely. So he and his wife went up and moved and got a dog. I'm kidding. They didn't get a dog. They went up and moved.
I'm going to hate on this dog so bad.
Yeah. Aww.
Get over here, buddy. You know what? You kind of got a fat butt. Yeah, I told you. Ha ha. Dog's just like, yeah, you're mad now. Oh, it's just not the same.
Now. Yeah.
Here's a gun. Try to shoot me.
I can't stay mad at you, buddy. You're the best. Well, he's generally lonely, so he and his wife went and moved up to another ranch, just a bit farther away, but still closer to where he committed the crimes in Northeast Texas. So he's like getting closer because, moved back to the scene of the crime.
I just need a little bit more drama.
Yeah, and he's bored. Yeah, he's bored. Well, years passed, right? And in 1906, they moved to Neighbor's Tank, which was close to Estes City.
Great name.
It's called Neighbor's Tank. I wonder if their neighbors did have a tank. That's close to when they're invented.
Tanks?
Yeah. 1915, I believe, is when tanks were invented. The first tank.
I'm going to assume that it meant like a water tank.
I know. I was just talking about real tanks.
Like that shoots rockets.
Yes. Yes. Well. Oh, shit. I got lost. Okay. Cool. Sorry. I always like put a space in between where my next sentence is, and I had 2 spaces, and the pointer was in the other space, and I was like, "What the fuck? This isn't. I already read this."
What kind of witchcraft is this?
Yeah, a space.
Ho! Ho ho!
Well, it was noted that his son-in-law, the husband to Maud's dad, was close to the sheriff, and I know that's weird, connections. And he feared Baldy. So basically, his son-in-law's dad was friends of the sheriff. And it was Frank Kraft who would turn in Baldy to the sheriff's and lead them right to his door, not more than a year after they moved to Neighbor's Tank. Neighbor's Tank, more like Neighbor's Stank. I wrote that in there and was just like, I'm going to try it, and it's terrible. Gil's lining up here. Oh, an actual applause! Oh, my God. I did it. I missed my cricket. Like a sitcom from like the 60s or 70s. That's much better. Well, his name is Damn, that last person was clapping for a while. For our Patreon listeners.
Here we go. Cleanse the palate.
Thank you. Yep.
There we go.
Well, in late March of 1907, a sheriff and his deputies strolled onto Bobby McGee's. In late March of 1907, a sheriff and his deputies strolled onto Baldy Mitchell's ranch, using the guise that they wanted to look for some mining prospects, and heard that he had a few spots on his land. So they got up to the house, started talking to him, and like, hey, can we go a little farther over this way? Go take a look at whatever is in that, those trees. Away from a few of his sons, obviously. And then as he was turned around looking towards the mountains, they slid the cuffs on him, almost like it was a magic trick. Baldy kicked and screamed and fought as hard as he could, but he couldn't get away or out of the cuffs. Right?
Aww.
Baldy, for the first time, was under arrest through this whole thing. Well, they brought him back to his hometown, where his father was hanged to stand trial in late March of 1907. It was about 32 years since his father was executed by the law. And those years, the sentiment around the whole situation, the whole feud, had turned much, much softer. No longer was he hearing people say, kill him, put him to death. But he had honest-to-God friends standing up for him and giving him help, understanding his plight.
Yeah.
And to be fair, let's make it clear. People didn't support him killing James Truitt, right? But they knew exactly, like we said earlier, why he did it.
He did it. Yeah.
And they didn't want to admit that the whole system of eye for an eye was wrong because they can understand why he did it. Again, I think that's the lesson of this whole thing. You can understand why he did it.
Yeah, dude. Sorry. You kill somebody's mom, their dad, their sister, their brother. Like, the fuck do you expect, dude? I'm sorry, but that's an exchange that's as old as time. Straight up. That is as old as humans have ever had relationships with one another. It's like, you don't do that. And that's why the war in Iraq went so fucking well.
Yeah, exactly. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, he had good lawyers this time, unlike what his dad had.
Oh, yeah.
These lawyers were paid for by his rich friends in the town.
Damn.
It really seems kind of a shame for what happened actually in the trial, right? So while he was being sentenced, like, first going to trial and then being like, okay, like, we're going to set the date, right? And here's your bond. The first, what is it
Yeah.
called? The hearing, I guess. He
Yeah.
would post bond, and then he would literally be rearrested as he would walk out of the jail,
What the fuck?
right? This happened twice
Why?
because it was, I don't honestly understand why they did this. It's such
I know it's
a like
fuckery.
it's fuckery. But the stupid thing is his first bond, $6,000, right?
Yeah.
Boom.
Whew.
Took the bond.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Took the bond. He
So that
walked
was
out of jail.
$60 back then, but yeah.
Well, no, it was $6,000 back then.
Well, it's generally like a tenth or. But
no,
yeah.
it was
Anyways.
$6,000 at that time.
Oh, like it came
Yeah,
out.
it's
to
not
the
$6,000
total came
now.
out.
It was
Okay.
actually $6,000 then. So it's a
Gotcha.
good chunk of money.
Yeah.
And his friends put it up for him because they
Yeah,
supported
yeah,
him. The whole thing about we understand. And then the second one, the bond was
Damn.
$8,000.
Damn.
Put up again.
Yeah.
And he got rearrested twice.
Mm.
And the second time he knew it was happening. They had everybody had prepared for it. They were just like, okay, here's the money. We're gonna let you out of jail. But they were just like, you're coming right back here.
Your
right?
left shoe's untied on a Wednesday. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it was stupid. And he was being arrested again for the same murder.
That's
wasn't
double
like-
jeopardy, my friend. That's not legal.
Funny
I don't know.
Is
Was it legal
gonna-
at the time?
I
Was
don't
double
know if
jeopardy?
they had double jeopardy.
I know now it's not, but I don't know
It's
when
definitely
that
not.
law went into effect. But yeah.
What's funny is we'll get into part of the trial because there is some weird stuff that happens that
Alex
I
Trebek
didn't
wasn't
know.
even born yet. There's no way that could even be possible.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, yeah. Well, his lawyers were top notch, as we said. They kept him out of jail as much as they could. So his first trial for the murder of James Truitt was wild, right? The newspapers described it like this. Every inch of ground was closely contested in this case, and it has been one of the greatest legal battles. I'll read this again. Sorry, I messed up. Every inch of ground has been closely contested in this case, and it has been one of the greatest legal battles in the history of East Texas. Both sides, the prosecution and the defense, have handled the case well, and so much interest has... S's are hard today. And so much interest was aroused that the courthouse has been full of spectators throughout the entire trial. Crazy. Both sides are doing so well in this that it's like every inch of piece of evidence that could be, everybody that was interviewed, it was just a really good trial. It was probably like watching the O.J. Simpson trial at that time. It's just like the lawyers on both sides. I mean, lawyers on both
If the
sides.
brain matter don't fit, you have to acquit. And they're just like shoving the guy's
Into his
brains
skull.
back into his skull. Everybody's crying and screaming, and they're just shoving it in. They're just mashing it up. So, yeah, you see here. I do picture the rooster lawyer from Futurama just this whole time.
Yes.
Just like-
Yes.
It might be Herbert.
Oh,
Sorry, I miss Herbert.
It
I
could
miss
be.
Herbert,
I know.
Joey.
He had to make an appearance.
I miss Herbert. God
I
damn
know.
it.
He'll come back
Sorry.
in later time.
I had to
in
bring
later
I
episodes.
know. We'll figure
Yeah.
out a way. We'll find him
Well,
again.
We'll
I'm
find
gonna look up time
He'll
traveling
jump into
chickens.
history at some point. Yeah. Well, when the verdict came in, it was labeled a mistrial. And I'm thinking that people more knowledgeable of the law are going to have to
Explain that one.
they're going to have to let me know what happened, right? Because I don't understand. I thought he'd be not guilty. So, 7 of the jurors were for conviction and 5 were for not guilty. To me, doesn't that mean that he's not guilty?
Well,
I guess it's technically a hung jury, right?
No, hung jury would be equal. I
Okay.
believe hung jury is like equal. So like 7 and 5 as opposed to 6 and 6. There's 12 jurors,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then so like
So I guess
6
that
and
would be
6 means
mistrial.
hung. it means it's
Yeah.
a draw. Mistrial would just be like, you know, it's not enough to fully get majority, or it's like
Yeah.
too close to the edge. Technically, the judge would be the 13th,
Yeah, if it
which should
was
be able to
6-6.
break. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if anybody knows, contact that Black Cat Report. Let us know what the feasibility of it is, and well, I'd love to learn. So,
Yeah.
basically, declared a mistrial, right? So
Mm.
his brother Dan Mitchell, who was supposedly the star witness for the prosecution, made it up to his brother after he gave his brother's hideaway out in 1886.
Okay.
He just decided not to show up.
Kind of a shitty move, Dan.
No, it was the star witness for the prosecution, and he decided not to show up. So he
Still a
didn't
shitty
have to
move,
say
Dan.
anything. Well, he got summoned by the court, which is super illegal not to show up at the court. And
Yeah, that's a
because
bench
he
warrant,
didn't show
baby.
up, he didn't go under oath, and he didn't have
Mm.
to testify against his brother.
Mm.
Boom.
That's what all those passports were for earlier.
Earlier, yeah. I'm out of the country, baby.
Remember when I went to the Mexican-American War? I'm international, baby. Let's go.
No, PM Truitt, the father of James, was actually in the Mexican-American War. Well, there's a whole part in the
Which
book
was
about
all
him
of
trying
Texas,
to.
but yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole
Literally.
part in the book about PM Truitt, that James Truitt's father, trying to get back pay from the Mexican-American War. It's just a whole. It goes down a whole rabbit hole, and it doesn't really
The
add to the
family's
story.
petty as fuck.
It was.
dude.
They are petty. They is like I said in the beginning. They're
Petty
very
as
well
fuck.
to do. They're trying to be
Yeah.
like, oh, we're great, we're amazing, and the Mitchells are just these people living off the land. So it's like you
Damn.
get people are getting painted as these people in this. The people just living off the land become vengeful and petty and bad people. But these people that are well to do, they dress semi well, they go to church all the time. They become son becomes a preacher. They're looked on as these beautiful American family,
Upstanding
like this
citizens. Yeah.
outstanding citizens. And it was noted in the book that everyone thought they're outstanding citizens. Hence why the newspaper article in part 1 looked the way it did.
Yeah.
Well, the second trial for Baldy was set for March 9th, 1908, almost a year after his first one was labeled a mistrial. It was literally a copy and paste of the first trial with the same testimony, the same people, and the result was the same. The jury could not convict, so it was labeled a mistrial. It was just awful. And what's funny is like they brought Julia, which was the Truitt's wife, James Truitt's wife, they brought her into it and said, she literally pointed at Baldy and was like, that's the guy that did it.
Yeah.
Both times. And she described him. They described the coffee. They all in the town described the coffee thing, the coffee pot that he had. And they went to his house and they grabbed the coffee pot.
Yeah.
They grabbed the same coffee pot, but it still
They
wasn't
just like
enough
had it
evidence.
up on the stand and they're like, did you make coffee for Baldy? And it's like, I rest my case. Just like, it's just a coffee pot sitting there.
Yeah. And, they again moved the trial to January 11th, 1909. But because Baldy had bronchitis, they had to move it again. And they moved it to June 27th, 1910, 2 days after my birthday. Also close to the time that Frank Oldfield was raiding the Society of the Banana, 1910. So, kind of getting close to the same time periods. Well, this just reminds me sometimes of how slow justice really is, right? So if you think about it nowadays, like we get this contracted form of news about serial killer cases because they've happened so long ago. But if you really look at the time period and you see a case happening now, judges and prosecutors and defense attorneys take years sometimes to go to court just to protect, just to go to that. And it's like, it's such a long process. And in this part, it shows like,
yeah,
he again gets it moved to December 23rd, 1910, because they just added, they're like, let's move it again. So another 6 months. They're like, cool, let's move it out. And, what's better for Christmas than being sentenced to jail for the rest of your life?
Jesus. Yeah.
And December 23rd, 1910, they went through the same motion. They did the literal same thing. This time, the jury did not believe the defense's witnesses, and they convicted Bill Baldy Mitchell to life in prison.
Damn.
It was just some minute detail that happened in the trial. When I read it, it was basically, for some reason, this trial, his family tried to come up with an alibi of why he was not killing James Truitt. He was not in Timpson, Texas. Just for this part of the trial, that his family tried to come up with an alibi, and for some reason the jury is just like, that didn't happen. That's not true. And they didn't believe that defense witness, and it invalidated everything else that happened. And so they're like, cool, now it's time to convict him.
Damn.
Well, the lawyers were so good that Baldy did not directly go to jail right after that, right? He had a good amount of time out of jail to be with his family. But finally, in March 1912, almost 2 years after he was sentenced to jail for life, he finally went to jail. For good. Maybe. 2 years and 2 months after being put in jail, Baldy escaped.
Hell yeah, Baldy.
Yeah. Love it. It was theorized of how he escaped that he was doing maintenance duties outside of the walls of the prison with a few other prisoners. And then he just walked off.
However, did he manage to escape while he was doing maintenance duty on the walls on the outside of the prison, unattended and unsupervised? This man is a genius.
Yeah,
We
he's
merely
a
sent
genius.
him 7 states over with $47 and a brand new suit.
What's funny is there is another theory about how he got out.
Oh, God.
And this is even worse. The theory is that the warden asked him if he wanted to go home for Christmas
Aw. Yeah.
and see his family, right? And
Back when they
I
did that
don't-
kind of shit. Yeah.
and then they just let him walk out of prison and never come back.
The warden was probably like, bro, you shouldn't be here, honestly.
Yeah, and just never looked for him. They never looked for him
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Right? Well, he eventually met up with his family and lived out, kind of a few years on the road, eventually getting older, and then he started settling down because he was getting older. He's like, couldn't do the same, all the stuff, he's like, it's 1910s, late 1910s. He's getting old. He's almost in his 70s at this time. So he moved with his wife and his kids out near New Mexico. Baldy was 72, 73 at this time, and he couldn't move much. He couldn't do anything, so he bought a stripped-down Ford Model T.
Hell yeah.
Where it comes in this one.
Hell
People
yeah.
noted that he drove it like a horse, not a car. He didn't slow down to go over a ditch, but instead would try and jump the ditch with his the Model T.
Hell yeah.
He's living life on the edge.
Fuck yeah.
Well, sadly, in the 1920s, Baldy had a heart attack. His first one.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah.
But in April of 1928, he lived a good while. He saw the end of World War One.
Shit.
He had his last heart attack and died working in his garden. A free man.
Aw.
And so ends William Baldy Mitchell, outlaw.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good job,
He did all
Baldy.
that, feuded, and died a free man. Crazy. He only
Feuded and
spent
free.
2 years. He only spent, he was in, okay, so he spent 2 years and 2 months fully in jail. And that was it. He was in and out of jail as they were doing the bonds and like every once in a while they'd send him back to
Yeah.
jail for some reason or another, some stupid
How-
thing. He was
How old
78
was he when he died?
when he died. About
When he died?
78.
He had a good life.
He had a long life.
I dig it.
Yeah. Well, we want to say thank you for listening to this 2-part series, and we appreciate you tuning in. You could find us, me and Gil, Black Cat Report, Data, Salem, all over the interwebs at our website, blackcat.report. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and all the socials. You can even find us on Facebook. You can find us there. We want to thank our Patreon subscribers, Copy Kitty and Paranorm Girl. They keep our lights on, keep our network running, keep Gil dancing. Not only is Gil going to be a Giovanni Versace, Gil's also going to be the next Michael Flatley.
I don't know who any of those people are, but I would like to say, y'all are the best. We love you. We will talk to you next week. Hopefully see you too. That'd be cool. And yeah. Bye.
Bye.